Joining us for more to break it all down is Jack Brill, the vice chair of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College. And Jack, this has been a difficult primary to watch for Republicans because Greg Steube and Julio Gonzalez are well regarded, but this primary campaign has been very nasty.
It has. Greg Steube is a ferocious campaigner. Julio Gonzalez is also one. It hasn't brought out the most positive things. I'm very happy that now we get to go take on Democrats so we can stop fighting with each other. So glad this race is over.
Yeah, Frank, Jack talks about taking on the Democrats here, but this is a overwhelmingly Republican race, Republican district. We'll talk about the 16th Congressional District, Vern Buchanan, in a few minutes. But the Democrats, there are two of them in this race in the primary tonight, but they've raised very little money.
They don't have much in the way of a war chest, and it is extremely difficult to reign. The 17th district is considered a safe Republican district. You want to never say never, but whoever emerges on the Republican side will be heavily favored.
It is a strange district because it's 9 different counties that range from here on the Suncoast going all the way down to the Venice area, almost to West Palm Beach, Jack. And that makes it very difficult for whoever it is to campaign throughout there. Demographically or geographically, who has had the most advantage in the different areas?
Well, I think you'll see that Greg Steube's advantage, obviously he's been the senator for Sarasota County and northern Charlotte County, so that's an advantage. But Julio's been the House representative for South County and Sarasota. Greg has got a background in agriculture, which plays out east, but also healthcare is, you've got a large senior population, not only in Charlotte County, Lee County, South County, Sarasota, Highlands County. So, with the healthcare basis with Dr. Gonzalez, there's an advantage there. So this thing is way up in the air. We're going to be watching this for the next while because the smaller counties are going to take longer to report. As an example, Glades County, a couple of their precincts are 45 miles from their district, and it's all sugar cane in between, so they're not going to be reporting till 8:30 or so.
And we're very used to Sarasota and Manatee counties being very quick in terms of getting the results in there. For a lot of the other races that we're going to be reporting on tonight, we'll have the results by the time we go off the air here, but this is a little bit different.
It is. They're also most of the votes, the populations in Sarasota and Manatee. So unless it's really close, and then we'll be waiting a while for some of these other counties to come in on the Republican side, we'll probably know pretty early who's going to win.
And 56% of this district is Sarasota County and Charlotte County, so that your large population bases are those two areas.
Let's talk about for a moment who has been supporting who. We talked during the campaign that the NRA endorsed Greg Steube. And he's also gotten a lot of the institutional Republican groups that are supporting him. But Julio Gonzalez got the endorsement of Marco Rubio and a lot of other groups. There's been a lot of money going into both campaigns. But Jack, could you describe a little the dynamic there?
Well, obviously there's been support. There's a lot of support locally for both folks. This is one that is a real test of everybody here locally. And obviously, they're both incredibly phenomenal people, and we're going to end up with a great congressman no matter which one of the two wins tonight.
All right, we have to take a quick break. We are just getting started here on primary night now. So, gentlemen, let's break this down. As Senator Steube just reported there, so far with Sarasota coming in terms of early voting and vote by mail, he leads Julio Gonzalez 57.56 to 26.71. Bill Akins with a little almost 16% of the vote. We talk about, in general, Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans win on election days a lot. But, Jack, is there anything you could tell us or glean from Steube's advantage in terms of early voting and mail-in ballots?
With the early voting and absentee ballots, I think the numbers are coming in where he said the polling where the interesting point here is that Bill Akins has got 15% of the vote. Now, did that come from Julio's potential supporters or Greg? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm just surprised that Bill's actually has gotten that many votes.
That's not an insignificant number. I think the more important number to keep in mind is that the the combination of absentee and early voting are probably on the order of, I haven't done the calculation, but we're probably looking at about 60% to 70%, somewhere in there of the total vote. I think it's above 60, which means that whatever margin one candidate is above another, you're going to have to more than compensate for that to make up for it.
But explain this to me, because both Stupi and Gonzalez have far outraised Bill Akins, who ran a low-budget grassroots campaign. So, Jack, any idea of why he is doing so well, or Frank? Or
my quick reaction, it just might be, when campaigns get muddy and you have two candidates slinging mud back and forth, sometimes voters just get sick and tired of it and throw a protest vote to them.
I agree with you, Frank. But, as I've mentioned previously, it was interesting. We live in Longboat Key. Every day we got a robocall from Bill Akins asking him to vote for him, which I'm trying to figure out why in Longboat we were getting his calls, but he was calling robocalls every day.
We're going to talk about the governor's race a little bit later, but Frank, are you talking about the same dynamic that we've seen in the Democratic gubernatorial primary, where Jeff Green spent millions of dollars basically to slime Gwen Graham and Phil Levine, and as a result, he's dropped down considerably, and Gwen Graham and Phil Levine are within points of the lead.
There are a number of factors at play here with Green: the negative advertising, the volume of money that he has spent, and also his profile is very similar to that of Phil Levine. So at the end of the day, we haven't seen anything yet. I think Green's presence probably hurt Levine more than the other candidates.
I guess the point, Jack, is does negative campaigning like that only work when it's a two-person race, and when you have a third person in there, voters who may get sick and tired of the two who are sliming each other are going to go to the third?
There is a potential for that, no question. If you've got a third candidate in there and he's, talking about his issues. Now, he was negative too, so Bill's not innocent in this whole process. I heard, when he put out some things, he was throwing mud out there as the other two. He just didn't have, by any means, the support or the money to do it in the volume that Julio and Greg did.
Right.
He was doing a small increments.
We have to take another quick break. Our conversation on primary night continues. Welcome back. We have some results coming in right now, and we want to show you them right on the screen as we look at it. Right now, we have Nick Guy, who is challenging Bridget Ziegler, leading in that race with 100% of the precincts reporting it says. But let's talk to our guests about that right now, because we have another one coming up here. Let's take a look at that. In the other school board district race, the District 4, we have Shirley Brown holding on to her seat right now against Karen Rose, who has run a very aggressive campaign against Shirley Brown. Here's another one, the Sarasota School Board District 5, Jane Goodwin, also maintaining her seat on the school board there. She had a four-person field there. So it looks like right now we have some interesting results on the school board. And gentlemen, let me ask you this: any surprises there? Obviously, Bridget Ziegler looks like she is going down to defeat right now against Nick Guy.
It's getting a lot closer, because that's not all the precincts. It looks like there's 61 out of 101 reporting, and that race is at 36,912 for Nick Guy, Ziegler 35,731 at the exact 61 precincts. Shirley Brown 37.6 versus Karen Rose 35. So those updates we've got now, those races are getting close, and that shows because we had an 11,000 plus plurality today by Republicans coming out to vote in person, and all those votes are still coming in. What you're seeing in the first part was all the absentee votes, the early votes, the first precincts to report. Now here comes the rest of the county.
Frank, still, and there's a lot to learn tonight here, but for it to be that close with the chairwoman of the school board running for re-election, that's pretty darn interesting.
It is. Without having an R and a D next to the school board, they're nonpartisan races, or at least they're nominally nonpartisan races. It increases the uncertainty. You don't know what you're going to see. Nick Guy raised a good amount of money, ran a fairly strong campaign. Bridget Ziegler, name recognition. She's a sitting board, a chair. It'll be surprising if she loses, but not a shock.
But we're going to break it all down with Jack Brill, the vice chair of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College. So first off, on the Democratic side here, the National Democrats, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, has already put David Shapiro on its red to blue list, even though he still has a primary to win tonight against Jan Schneider, who has run regularly for this seat for a long time now. It does look like David Shapiro, with all the money he has had and the advertising, is off to a good start tonight. But tell us about the dynamics here, Frank.
I think you captured him fairly well. Dave Shapiro ran a very, very close race for a state house seat back in 2006. As a lawyer with a lot of connections, he's been raising a lot of money. So that fundraising capacity was always there. And the Democratic Party establishment has been behind him the entire time. But there is a primary. Jan Snyder's a familiar face here in the area. This is her 6th run. She's been the nominee a handful of times. And so she's got some high name recognition.
Jack, you don't have to be a political expert to know that the Buchanan campaign is taking this race this year more seriously in the past. And you can tell that because if a member of Congress, an incumbent, they take you seriously if they're running negative ads about you on TV, and our airwaves are full of them. How concerned is Vern Buchanan about this race, given the national environment and mood?
Well, I think you're going to see this year, because some of the different groups in D.C. have said, oh, this is a likely, it's gone from strong Republican to likely Republican, or whatever Frank, the terminology is. But, when you look at this district, it's the northern half of Sarasota County, all of Manatee County, and the southern half of Hillsborough County. There's been times in the past where, if you look at House District 72, Vern's lost that district, but Manatee County is so red that will offset anything that happens in Sarasota County, and where Southern Hillsborough is a very strong, where they're at, that district's at,
actually,
is very strong too.
This seat goes all the way up to Apollo Beach in Hillsborough County, which is a community which a lot of people, a lot of young urban professionals who work at Tampa General and places like that, they're settling there. The district has been redistricted, Frank. Do Democrats really believe that they have a shot this year?
Yeah, I think that they do. I think the trade-off was losing the bottom half of Sarasota County for the bottom half of Hillsborough, at least the eastern portion of it. And it's not a dramatic change, but that's a shift in the direction of Democrats by a point or two. Look, Fitzgerald only came within about 7 points of Buchanan in 2012. I think the tide, the wave, is going to be much higher this year. So Shapiro will have some wind behind his back. And I think you also hit it at the beginning. Buchanan's running a little scared here. He's spending lots of money. He's hammering Shapiro, trying to maybe pump up Schneider a little bit in the primary, and those ads, he's running hard to the center. I can't even recognize, who
Jack,
that guy is on TV.
If you're that comfortable in terms of your district, you don't really worry about the guy who's trying to take your job away.
Yeah, but the guy who's trying to take your job away has a lot of outside support, so this is going to be a serious race. The Buchanan campaign is very experienced. They've got tremendous people. They're on the ground to win this race, and to him to have another term.
All right, we have to take a quick break, and we'll have much more when we return, so stay with us. And Jack, let me ask you why things happen. You had two Republican heavyweights here. Why does it appear tonight that Greg Steube is going on to such a large victory?
He's done a great job in the Senate and in the House for the last 8 years. His views closely align what the district is looking for, in all 9 counties. Julio's done a good job in the last 4 years in the House, so you're really splitting the differences, but those differences are very noticeable to the voters. And Greg's done a great job, and that's why he's gonna. It looks like, at least from the Sarasota votes, he will be our next congressman. Come after the November election.
All right, let's talk about the governor's race a little bit in terms of the numbers we're seeing from Sarasota County. Frank, Gwen Graham on the Democratic side is crushing it. Of course, we're not going to get numbers statewide until the polls close on the Panhandle after 8 o'clock here, but this has really been a tumultuous race, with the lead, according to public polling, going back and forth here. Would you be surprised if Gwen Graham does not pull it out tonight?
Not until I have more information. It was a close race, and I don't know what's happening right now. Miami-Dade, Broward, Southeast Florida, a lot of people there. Orlando area, a Panhandle. The numbers for Sarasota County look terrific for Gwen Graham, but there's still a lot of votes, and we just don't know where they are right now.
And let's talk about the Republican side here, because when we're looking at the numbers coming in from Sarasota Republicans, it looks like that Congressman Ron DeSantis is out to a huge lead over Adam Putnam in Sarasota County. And Jack, I'm going to ask you if you're surprised about that, given how much time Adam Putnam has spent here on the Suncoast, how well you all know him, especially in Republican activist circles, that Ron DeSantis, a kind of an unknown congressman from the other coast, has come in here and done so well so quickly.
We have a tremendous base in South County, tremendous Trump base. President Trump's endorsement, that's the game changer in the whole process in Sarasota County, especially in South County.
And how do you feel about that? Because I know that a lot of people who have been active Republicans have been supporters of Adam Putnam for a long time, would introduce him as the next governor of Florida, and almost within a minute, the tables are turned.
Welcome to everything in 2018 since the election, since President Trump's election. I mean, it's phenomenal. I can tell you, Congressman DeSantis is going to give, if Congresswoman Gwen Graham, former Congresswoman, is the nominee on the Democratic side. It's going to be one heck of a race up to November, and I can tell you, we will all be united behind Congressman DeSantis.
You're the political scientist here. Have both parties, presuming it would be DeSantis and Graham, pick the strongest general election candidates?
Let's just say if Gwen Graham pulls out the Democratic primary and DeSantis wins the Republican primary, the Graham campaign is going to be very happy that DeSantis won the Republican primary.
Okay, we want to close the show talking a little bit again about the Sarasota School Board. The numbers are still coming in here, but it does look like preliminarily that Bridget Ziegler and Shirley Brown are holding on to slim margins to retain their seats on the Sarasota School Board, and Jane Goodwin is also doing very well here. Jack, I know that it's a non-party race here, but Republicans were behind Karen Rose, and so was the teachers union. Are you disappointed there, and are you surprised that Bridget is winning, but not by a huge margin?
Well, Bridget won by a little over a point or two in her last election. Obviously, in today's voters, the people that voted today, she's really surged and has taken the lead with 100 precincts, and she's going to win this race. Karen Rose, who has never run before, what a tremendous lady. She came, it looks like she's going to be within 500 votes of Shirley, who's been the incumbent for a lot of years. There's a lot of people that, this has been an interesting race. And, we've been talking about the two races there. It will be interesting to see what the final counts are if Jane ends up over 50% and takes out the field.
Well, when we talk about Shirley Brown, there's no prize for second place there. Shirley Brown, as I said, has been targeted by the school board and the Republicans, a lot of negative stuff out there. But, she's been on the school board for years now, and before that she was in the state legislature. Frank, when you look at this race, was it longevity that helped Shirley in this?
There are too many factors to cover too quickly. She's been around for a while, lots of name recognition, but there were a number of just intriguing dynamics to this race in terms of the volume of money that poured in, and then some of just personnel issues and just some strictly local issues made it a fascinating race, razor-thin margin. And another fascinating race was, for Ziegler's seat, and she looks like she's going to hold on. But I would say the same thing. Nick Guy, first time that he's ever run,
right?
Tremendous candidate, ran a great campaign, and if the numbers hold up as it looks like they will, this is going to be, he's going to lose by not much more than 500, maybe between 500 and 1,000, and that's just nearly 100,000 votes, and both of these races are going to be decided probably by less than 1,000 right there.
So after all this, the dynamic on the Sarasota School Board changes not whatsoever.
That's what it looks like right now.
The dynamic's always in flux, but on some of the broader issues, especially with respect to philosophies regarding school choice and some of these other statewide contentious issues, the balance of power right now remains the same.
Right. But it shows, even if it's a small margin, the majority of the voters like what Bridget Ziegler's doing.
And we'll have to leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here for the last hour. We want to thank both our guests, Jack Brill, the Vice Chair of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Frank Alcock, the Political Science Professor at New College, for joining us tonight.